Well, I'm joined now from North London by former gang member Jermaine Lawler, who now mentors vulnerable young people at risk of falling into crime. And in the studio by Victor Elisa, a former chief superintendent of the Metropolitan Police, former head of policing in Tottenham, who believes that budget cuts are to blame in some sense for this. So you disagree with the Home Secretary. You think that these cuts in numbers have had an impact?
Well, I think it's too simplistic to talk about reduction in numbers. There have been a reduction in numbers in police officers, but if we look at what police have been asked to do just recently, stay in London, over the last 3 or 4 years, we're having to actually focus on increase in hate crime, increase in cyber crime, increase in online fraud, the counter-terrorism attacks. Now, if we maintain the same number of police officers, 32,000, we're having officers having to deal with a lot more demands than they were doing 3 or 4 years ago. So by the very nature of that, officers will be taken off the traditional street patrolling in uniform that they're doing at the moment. So just to say that the cuts simplistically have actually reduced numbers and this is part of the reason, is too simple. But it plays a part.
OK. Mr. Lawler, thanks so much for joining us. Do you agree with that, or are there much more important forces at play here?
I think it's an important factor, and no doubt that actually police cuts have had an impact and have had a great impact on the present problem at hand. But I don't think it's any more importantly than the cuts. The cuts have had much more of a far greater negative impact than cuts being made to Metropolitan Police Service. Now, in terms of increasing stop and search and in terms of increasing police officers, Metropolitan Police are not in a position to actually implement that effectively because they don't have positive relationships with these communities. Our communities don't trust the police, and that's a big issue. So instead of increasing stop and search, they should be working around improving relationships between predominantly ethnic minority communities and London Metropolitan Police Service.
But that presumably requires having policemen on the ground.
Yes, but it's about having the right police officers. As I said, and as I can't stress, families, multiple amounts of communities and people are fed up. They're tired and they're broken, and we're screaming out for help. This doesn't seem to be on the political agenda of it being a priority. We're reacting rather than acting, and it's a bit late in terms of finding out the solutions. On multiple occasions, I've come and I've told and shared the difficulties, the issues, and what needs to be done in terms of tackling the problem, and nothing's been done.
OK. Those pictures we saw there, Victor Elisa, are absolutely shocking that people are carrying that sort of weaponry around. Do we need more stop and search?
Absolutely. All you need to do is look at those pictures. And police officers have been seeing those images and their daily work for years on end. And we've been talking about parts of the reason why we need stop and search. It's not the only solution. It's not the main solution. It's a contributor to actually asking police officers in public place to play an active part to stop that, to prevent it and to deter it. Now, stopping it, we can measure. The deterrence and the prevention is very difficult to measure, but it also has an effect and it's impactful.
OK, fascinating discussion. I wish we had more time. Victor Elisa and Jermaine Lawler, thank you so much for joining us.